budget-related businesses. Also today we have the County Government's Amendment Bill, that is the Senate Bill number 25 of 2023, that is co-sponsored by the Member of Parliament for Marakwet West, that is Honorable Timothy Torotich. It's a Senate bill brought by the Nandi Senator, Honorable Simon Cherargei. It's in its first reading, and that is the County Government's Amendment Bill, that is Bill number 25 of 2023. Article 10 of the Constitution provides for the national values and principles applicable to state officers when exercising public power. These values and principles include good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability. One of the means of ensuring accountability in the exercise of public power is oversight of members of the executive by the legislature at both levels of government, that is the national and the county levels. In that regard, Section 40 of the County Government Act provides for the procedure for the removal of a member of the county executive by a county assembly. However, cognizant that the office of the county executive committee member is established by the Constitution, noting that adverse consequences of removal by impeachment of a member of a county executive committee, the threshold for voting for such removal in the Act are very low. The bill, that is the County Government Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 25 of 2023, proposes to enhance the threshold of voting in a county assembly for the removal of a member of a county executive committee. The bill neither delegates legislative power to the Cabinet Secretary nor limits fundamental rights and freedoms. That is on the statement on the delegation of legislative powers and limitation of fundamental rights and freedom. The bill proposes to enhance the voting threshold in a county assembly, that is for the removal of a member of a county executive committee. Members of a county executive are appointed to head various dockets in the county executive charged with discharging of devolved functions as set out in Part 2 of the 4th Schedule of the 2010 Constitution. This bill affects the powers and functions of the county governments, and it's therefore a bill that concerns counties, that is in terms of Article 110(1)(a) of the Constitution. On whether this bill is a money bill or within the meaning of Article 114 of our Constitution, this bill is not a money bill within the meaning of the Article 111 of the Constitution. That is the bill number 25 of 2023, brought today by Honorable Timothy Torotich, who is a co-sponsor, as it's a Senate bill brought by Nandi Senator Honorable Samson Cherargei. Also, there is a bill on the Agricultural Profession Registration and Licensing Bill, that is National Assembly Bill number 19 of 2024, that is on its first reading. This is the bill by Tigania West Member of Parliament, Honorable John Mutunga. And the Speaker, today's Speaker of the session, Honorable Gladys Boss, has walked into the House for the session that is expected to commence shortly. And I now hand over you to the plenary. Stay tuned.
Honorable members, let us pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen.
The House, having not achieved quorum pursuant to Standing Order 34 for the commencement of the House, a bell has been rung for 10 minutes to allow members of Parliament to walk into the House for today's third session of the morning sitting. And the majority whip is at the presence of Parliament, whipping members to proceed to the House so as the session begins. We have a motion on the policy for the provision of mental health services in all healthcare facilities. That is the motion by Likoni Member of Parliament, Honorable Mishi Mboko. The House urges the national government, through the Ministry of Health, to collaborate with county governments to develop a policy integrating mental health care services in all healthcare facilities in the country. Aware that Article 43(1) of the Constitution provides that every person has a right to the highest attainable standard of health, including the right to health care services. The mental health is a key determinant of overall health and social-economic development. The Constitution assigns to the national government the responsibility of matters of health policy. It's a concern that, according to the World Health Organization, mental and neurological disorders are common, and about 10% of the global population suffer from at least one mental health disorder at any given time. It's a concern that the units are only available in very few facilities in our country, and patients requiring these services have limited or no access at all to these facilities. And while acknowledging that access to healthcare facilities would lead to improved overall health, increased economical productivity, social equity, and therefore improves the overall quality of life for all Kenyans. That is a motion brought by Honorable Mishi Mboko, the Member of Parliament for Likoni, on a policy for the provision of mental health services in all healthcare facilities in the country, the 290 constituencies, in collaborations with the 47 county governments. We have a motion number 28 of 2023, the motion on establishment of a science museum in our country. That is a motion by Dagoretti South Member of Parliament, Honorable John Kiari. Article 11.2b of the Constitution provides that the government shall recognize the role of science and indigenous technologies in the development of our nation. The Vision 2030 provides for the integration of information, communication and technology in our country's transformative agenda. There exists no science museum for consolidating indigenous scientific and technological innovations, the training and the research purposes in East African region. And while appreciating that integration of science and technology would greatly enhance Kenya's economic and societal success, there is potential for growth in technology sector by establishing a science museum. The informal science education plays a key role in the progressions of science, technology, engineering and mathematics in our country. The science museums operate as the nexus between the science practitioners, the policy makers and the public. And therefore, a science museum in the country would greatly impact on the economy of the country in the quest to become an industrialized nation. And therefore, the House resolves that the national government, through the relevant ministries, establishes and makes sure it operates a science museum in the country. That is a motion number 28 of 2023 on the establishment of a science museum in the country by the Honorable Member for Dagoretti South, Honorable John Kiari. We also have a motion on supporting and promoting local fertilizer manufacturing industries in the country. That is the motion by Honorable Samuel Atandi. Fertilizer and Animal Foodstuffs Act 2015 provides for the regulation of fertilizer importation in our country. The Fertilizer and Animal Foodstuffs Board regulates that fertilizer and animal foodstuffs industry, including the manufacture and production of fertilizers. The country currently relies heavily on imported fertilizer due to inadequate local production capacity. And the low production leads to high cost for farmers, that is, reducing their profits, and results in unhealthy reliance on imported fertilizer. It's a concern that the scenario threatens the country's food security in case of supply disruptions and discourages local productions. The local production of fertilizer could lead to the improved fertilizer quality, increased crop yields in the country, and reduction in the environmental harm caused by the use of the substandard fertilizers. While recalling that the country has the potential to produce fertilizer that could meet the country's domestic demand and also to just supply the regional market, there is need for the government to work with the local producers to develop the high-quality fertilizers that is tailored to the needs of Kenyan farmers and crops. Therefore, the motion number 33 of 2023 on supporting and promoting local fertilizer and manufacturing industries by the Honorable Member Samuel Atandi, the House resolves that the national government, through the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, supports and promotes the local fertilizer manufacturing industries by investing in research and development to boost the domestic fertilizer manufacturing sector, having in mind that this is the country's food security. We also expected this morning to have a debate on a motion on the government-to-government G2G model to acquire and supply fertilizer to farmers at subsidized cost. While still at fertilizers, this is a motion by Honorable Geoffrey Ruto, motion number 35 of 2023. Kenya is an agricultural-based economy with a significant portion of its population relying on farming for their livelihoods. The quality and the quantity of crop yields in Kenya has been hampered to a large extent by lack of adequate and quality fertilizers, leading to a decreased agricultural productivity and economic losses. The government has committed to improving agricultural productivity through the various initiatives, including that of provincial of subsidized fertilizers, concerned that the cost, quantity, and the quality of fertilizers, and subsequent the cost of production of food crops and cash crops, that is including coffee, tea, and miraa, has increased due to this number of factors. And the quorum has been achieved. And I now hand over you to the plenary. Listen in. My name is Angela Cheror. This has been the Parliamentary Broadcast Unit in collaborations with KBC. Stay tuned.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, June 5th, 2024, in this morning's sitting. Number 1, the 2024 Economic Survey Report, including the popular version of the report and the facts and the figures booklet from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. 2, annual statutory reports of the Council of Governors for 2022-2023. First quarterly report of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission covering the period of 1st January 2024 to 31st March 2024. Report of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights on the Shakahola killings. 5, reports of the Auditor General and financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2022 and the certificates therein in respect of Kenya Institute of Supplies Management and Kenya Accountants and Secretaries National Examinations Board Foundation. And 6, reports of the Auditor General financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2023 and the certificates therein in respect of A, Kenya Revenue Authority, Sports Kenya, Information and Communication Technology Authority, Maseno University, Agrochemical and Food Company Limited, National Council for Children's Services, Parethram Processing Company of Kenya, Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, National Industrial Training Authority, Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute, Kenya Forestry Research Institute, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology, Karatina University, Pwani University, and Kenya Accountants and Secretaries National Examinations Foundations. I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
has questions? Is that... Honorable Amina, did you have a statement?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Lands regarding the status of processing of title deeds for squatters residing in Msabaha sublocation within Malindi constituency. Honorable Speaker, the issue of land settlement in the coastal region has been a protracted matter among the communities in the region, revolving around questions of ownership and residency. In 2022, the government took significant steps by acquiring land from the Mazrui community with the aim of resettling squatters from Sabaha region in Malindi constituency and to resolve the endemic land matters in the region. Indeed, the identification process for the squatters was conducted and concluded in 2022. However, despite these strides, the residents of Msabaha find themselves in an uncomfortable predicament, lacking the crucial title documents affirming their occupancy rights. Moreover, a definite timeline for the completion of the resettlement program has not been provided, further exacerbating concerns by the residents. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Lands on the following. A. What are the specific reasons for the delay in finalization of the settlement program and issuance of title deeds of the residents? And B. Could the chairperson provide an update on the timeline for settling the residents of Msabaha area in Malindi constituency? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I don't see any other statement, so we may proceed. Next order. I don't have a list, actually. The chairperson lands. I don't have a list of them. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The chair is not around, but I'm in the land committee, and we undertake that we'll give a response in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's proceed. Next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion, exemption of certain business from the provision of Standing Order 43.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House resolves to exempt the business appearing as order number 15 and 16 in today's order paper from the provisions of Standing Order number 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for the business not sponsored by the majority or minority party or business sponsored by a committee. Honorable Speaker. Sorry? Oh, I beg to move and ask Honorable Dr. Bukose to second.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to second that the business appearing as either sponsored by majority or minority be exempted from the House to allow the House to prosecute very urgent matters as it is. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I second.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that this House resolves to exempt the business appearing on order number 15 and 16 in today's order paper from the provisions of Standing Order 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or minority party or business sponsored by a committee. I can see the mood of the House that we should put the question. Honorable members, I now put the question that this House resolves to exempt the business appearing on order number 15 and 16 in today's order paper for the provisions from the provisions of Standing Order 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for the business not sponsored by the majority or minority party or business sponsored by a committee. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 9, procedural motion, resolution to hold a Thursday morning sitting.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 33C, this House resolves to hold a morning sitting on Thursday, 6th June 2024, commencing at 9:30 for purposes of considering priority budget-related business. Honorable Speaker, you'll realize that we have a very short sitting session this month that commenced yesterday and will lapse on July 5th. But we've got several business to transact, and it's therefore prudent for us to have to hold a morning sitting tomorrow, and for the budget-related business, at least to fast-track the businesses that we have to transact before we go for a short recess in July, on July 5th. So I move and request Honorable Eric Wamumbi to second.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to second that we hold a morning session tomorrow. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Order 33C, this House resolves to hold a morning sitting on Thursday, 6th June 2024, commencing at 9:30 a.m. for the purposes of considering priority budget-related business. Honorable members, I now put the question that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 33C, this House resolves to hold the morning sitting on Thursday, 6th June 2024, commencing at 9:30 a.m. for the purposes of considering priority budget-related business. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 10, the County Government's Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 25 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an Act of Parliament to amend the County Governments Act to increase the threshold for removal of a member of a county executive committee and for connected purposes. Order number 11, the Agricultural Professionals Registration and Licensing Bill, National Assembly Bill number 19 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an Act of Parliament to make provision for the registration and licensing of agricultural professionals, to provide for the regulation of standards and practice of their profession, to provide for the establishment, powers and functions of the Agricultural Professionals Registration and Licensing Board, and for connected purposes. Order number 12, the Kenya Roads Board Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 20 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an Act of Parliament to amend the Kenya Roads Board Act 1999. Order number 13, the National Police Service Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an Act of Parliament to amend the National Police Service Commission Act 2011. Order number 14, the Pensions Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 25 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an Act of Parliament to amend the Pensions Act and for connected purposes. Order number 15, motion, consideration of the second supplementary estimates for the financial year 2023-2024, general debate.
Chairperson, Budget Committee.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the second supplementary estimates for financial year 2023-2024, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 4th June 2024, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution and Standing Order 243, 1, approves an increment of the total current expenditure for financial year 23-24 by Kenya shillings 51,113,484,433 in respect of the votes as contained in the first schedule. 2, approves a decrease of the total capital expenditure for financial year 2023-2024 by Kenya shillings 75,290,535,117 in respect of the vote as contained in the first schedule. 3, approves an overall decrease in the total budget for financial year 2023-2024 by Kenya shillings 24,117,050,684 shillings in respect of the votes as contained in the first schedule. And 5, approves Kenya shillings 23,666 billion. Let me repeat, Honorable Speaker. Number 4, approves Kenya shillings 23,667,017,803 spent under Article 223 of the Constitution in respect of the votes outlined in the third schedule. And 5, resolves that the first schedule forms the basis for the introduction of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill 2024. Honorable Speaker, I just wish to highlight a few things to members. And as I do so, I want to thank this House because we have been very busy for the last 2 weeks in what was to be a recess. Honorable Speaker, most of these members have been working long hours to see this process come through, Honorable Speaker. I also want to thank the members of the Budget and Appropriations Committee because besides the consideration of Supplementary 2, which we will be currently debating, alongside we've been considering the main estimates for the year 2024-2025, and at the same time, the mediation process with the Senate has been ongoing, and at the same time, consideration of the division of revenue, which necessitated the mediation, Honorable Speaker, and also equalization fund. And therefore, it has been a very, very, very busy period, Honorable Speaker, and I want to thank all the members, and especially those members in the departmental committees for doing a very thorough job. Honorable Speaker, the essence of Supplementary 2, and it is usually said that supplementary budget could be a reference of something that could have been done better. And Honorable Speaker, whereas I agree, I have also noted through the time we've been serving in the Budget and Appropriations Committee that dynamics in the economy necessitate even a supplementary estimates, like the one we are doing at the wee hours of the financial year. And Honorable Speaker, this happens because economies are not static. Economies are dynamic in nature. The variables that then make the economy, Honorable Speaker, they are all moving vehicles, they are more moving targets. And for that reason, Honorable Speaker, these supplementary estimates too is seeking to align the government financials as we close the financial year to be at a tidy state, to be at a level where the revenues that were projected, which are now almost reality, will now be incorporated as we make the supplementary. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, the essence of this supplementary, the sum, the total sum of it is negative. The total sum of the supplementary 2 is that we are reducing the expenditure by 24 billion. Why are we reducing expenditure, Honorable Speaker? Honorable Speaker, Kenya being a very optimistic country and being with people who are high achievers, we always set our targets based on our norms. And therefore, our revenue targets, Honorable Speaker, sometime conform with our norm of being optimistic, but then close to the close of the financial year, then we realized we needed to moderate our optimism towards realism, Honorable Speaker. And that is why we are descending from the previous figure by 24 billion, in the reality of the fact that the estimates in terms of revenue that we had at the beginning of the year were a bit optimistic. But Honorable Speaker, that is not to say that we are not performing in terms of revenue. We are performing as a country with a double-digit growth in revenue, only that we projected to correct much more, and therefore we had overstretched our targets. Honorable Speaker, there are some few areas, even as we take up the financials, that we have been working on. One, Honorable Speaker, is the area of CFS. Members, if you check in the order paper that we have, you realize that one of the areas that is having a reduction is the Consolidated Fund Services, Honorable Speaker. And if members remember in Supplementary 1, it is the same area that actually had an increment. Why CFS? Honorable Speaker, by the time we were considering Supplementary 1, Kenya shillings to the USD was going to close to 180 Kenya shillings to the greenback. Honorable Speaker, in regards to the other currencies, Kenya was decimated. But the current situation, Honorable Speaker, in the consideration of estimates 2, Supplementary 2, Honorable Speaker, Kenya shillings to the greenback is just around 130 shillings. And the interest rates also, globally and locally, are beginning to respond to the macro improvement in the macro parameters. And in that respect, CFS forms the huge bulk of, interest rates forms the huge bulk of CFS. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, it was important that we align the current realities of the payment of interest rates in regards to the current dynamics, which is an appreciation in the Kenya shillings and also other favorable dynamics in the money market, and especially in terms of the exchange rate. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, it was important that we make this Supplementary 2 so that our payment of interest rates is taking care of the gain in terms of our local currency and the other dynamics around interest rates. But even having said that, Honorable Speaker, there are also some other sectors that we have deemed are important for enhancement, even as we come to the close of the financial year. Honorable Speaker, one of those areas is the education, where in this Supplementary 2, higher education is actually gaining 4 billion shillings. But Honorable Speaker, this is majorly appropriations in aid, because our universities have been able to collect much more A&A than was projected at the beginning of the financial year. And Honorable Speaker, that's something we may actually need a discussion, because every time we are in a budget cycle, even like now, we see there is a lot of incentive for the MDAs to budget for A&A that is much less than what they usually collect. Honorable Speaker, possibly that is an area that we may also need to talk about, though we have put it in our recommendations, Honorable Speaker, and especially for the main budget. Honorable Speaker, another area that has had increment is the security sector. And Honorable Speaker, this is based on the realities of our country. Honorable Speaker, we have been able to add a little more money to the police service, National Police Service, and also all the other agencies insofar as security is concerned, because it is important that we capacitate them even as we close the year, and especially to take care of things that have already been spent under Article 223. The other thing that is important for members to note, in this Supplementary 2, we have added Kenya shillings 4 billion in terms of fertilizer subsidy, because, Honorable Speaker, agriculture is the backbone of our country. However much we are making policies to move towards having agriculture account for much less in terms of GDP, the reality is that we are still there. The reality is that Kenya is more agrarian than industrial. And in that respect, Honorable Speaker, the program that we've been running in terms of fertilizer subsidy, we have seen a lot of results in the previous months, Honorable Speaker, and therefore it was important, even as we move through seasons, that we have enough fertilizer for the farmers, so that, Honorable Speaker, we capacitate them to produce more and also make agriculture a favorable and profitable business, and especially by subsidizing inputs. Honorable Speaker, there were some areas that were left out in the last budget cycle insofar as paying sugarcane farmers is concerned, and especially those who have supplied sugarcane in public sugar factories, Honorable Speaker. We have also input that balance in this supplementary so that the sugar farmers of this country can get their dues, Honorable Speaker, and especially the arrears that are due to them. Honorable Speaker, maybe there are two so that other members can also take a point, can also get a chance. Honorable Speaker, in Kenya when it rains, we get blessings in many respects. But also in terms of the recent rains, Honorable Speaker, we have had to expend public resources in terms of mitigation of the damage caused by the El Nino. And I want to assure honorable members that we have also incorporated the expenditure, both at Article 223 and the requirements for the remaining part of the financial year in these supplementary estimates, Honorable Speaker, so that we can be able to support those who were the victims of the floods. And in that, Honorable Speaker, I also want to make it very clear that the Budget and Appropriations Committee in this House, our proposal is that because some of the people who were victims of these calamities, their livelihoods were destroyed. Honorable Speaker, I got a chance to go to Naivasha, where we got a very massive landslide and floods, Honorable Speaker. I also went to Mathioya in Muranga, where the people suffered the same. I have also been to Tana River, Honorable Speaker, and saw the kind of havoc that the victims of these floods and excessive rains are going through. Our proposal, Honorable Speaker, in terms of also allocation, is that besides the government giving food ratios to those who are affected, that the government must move forward, Honorable Speaker, and get these people resettled to other more favorable land, Honorable Speaker. A place like Naivasha where there was a landslide, those families can no longer go back to those areas. And Honorable Speaker, it behoves of the government to assist its people at those kind of situations. And that is why in consultation with the executive, Honorable Speaker, we have been able to provision monies to be used for the resettlement of the people who are affected by the floods and the excessive rains, Honorable Speaker, so that they can get comfort by not being resettled back in areas that are impossible to live in, Honorable Speaker. The other issue is that when we get rains, Kenya being practicing agriculture that is rain-fed, Honorable Speaker, also, our livestock also get what they need to produce more milk. And therefore, we usually have a glut and overproduction in terms of milk. And that is the reason why we have given UKCC some resources for mopping up of milk during this time of overproduction. And we have given them money in two ways. One for mopping out of the excess raw milk, but also number two, money for modernization of their factories so that they can start producing powdered milk effectively and in a manner that is cost effective. The current machinery that they have, Honorable Speaker, and the current technology they deploy in terms of making powdered milk is not efficient. It therefore ends up producing milk that then becomes uncompetitive comparative to other milk producing countries, Honorable Speaker. And we have done that because we know that we need to support our milk farmers, as we need to support our sugar farmers, as we need to support our coffee farmers, our tea farmers, and that is reflected in the estimates. Honorable Speaker, maybe lastly, Parliament, many times people confuse Parliament with members of Parliament. Parliament is an institution, and Parliament is the cornerstone of democracy. Honorable Speaker, in terms of the rule of a modern state, rule of law is important, democracy is important, but also an efficient bureaucracy is important. And in that respect, Honorable Speaker, looking at Parliament, there has been arrears for the drivers and bodyguards who work here in Parliament, Honorable Speaker. From January, they have not been able to get their dues. Honorable Speaker, I want to confirm that you have put in enough resources to pay the drivers and bodyguards of these members, Honorable Speaker, their arrears from January to date, Honorable Speaker. And in that respect, I request the National Treasury that they expedite in releasing the exchequer that we have added for the arrears of the bodyguards and drivers, because these are people who have families they need to take care of. They have needs, Honorable Speaker, and the more the reason, just like any other civil servant, we were able to put in the arrears for the bodyguards and drivers so that they get their due arrears from January to date so that they can go about their business in an efficient manner. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, I now wish to request the Honorable Mary Emase I beg to move, Honorable Speaker, having given those points, having said that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request the Honorable Majority Leader to second.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And allow me, Honorable Speaker, first to thank our Chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee and the members of our Budget and Appropriations Committee, all our chairs for the very good work that they have done over the working recess. You realize, Honorable Speaker, as some of us had time to retreat to our constituencies, many of our departmental committee members, their chairs, and those members of the Budget and Appropriations Committee and the Finance Committee have had a very busy working recess as they considered both the supplementary budget and the annual estimates and the ongoing finance bill engagements over the recess period. And I take this opportunity to thank them for the great work that they have done. And Honorable Speaker, as I second, I want to re-emphasize the need, Honorable Speaker, for the National Treasury to ensure that these supplementary budgets, as we have emphasized before, and the Honorable John Buddy, who is here and is a ranking member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, will tell you that over the years, this House has called on the National Treasury to limit supplementary budgets to at least one supplementary budget within a financial year, so that whatever you plan from your BPS right to the annual estimates, you will only revise it once. Otherwise, the business of having to do budgetary revisions twice, thrice in a year is not very good budgetary practice. And it speaks volumes to the level of preparedness that we have when we are preparing our budgets, Honorable Speaker, and also, in a way, creates uncertainty with the implementing agencies in government as to whether you will have adequate resources to implement all the programs that have been budgeted for you within a certain financial year, Honorable Speaker, since you do not know whether that money is subject to review. And appreciating, Honorable Speaker, the challenges that we've had with liquidity, or rather with the raising of revenues in the country, it is only fair that the National Treasury and those who are planning do so with a lot of prudence to ensure that the revenues we project are as realistic as possible, as close to what the reality is as possible, Honorable Speaker. And we must also take this opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to call on the Kenya Revenue Authority to pull up their socks, Honorable Speaker, to make sure that we are collecting adequate revenues to ensure that we do not keep revising our budgets through these supplementary budgets. Honorable Speaker, let me also note some good progress. As members will note, we have spoken, Honorable Speaker, at length about how we budget, how transparent our budgeting process is. And I must commend the Budget and Appropriations Committee because this time round, they have been very transparent in attaching the schedule. Honorable Speaker, the schedules that you members will find attached from page 757, or rather the first, all the way from the first to the fourth schedule, Honorable Speaker, including the changes that have been made. And Honorable Speaker, this is very good because it allows members to interrogate what are the changes that have been made by the Budget and Appropriations Committee, so that we avoid the temptation that I've always seen over the years to blame the Budget and Appropriations Committee members that they have reallocated money from here to there without the knowledge of the House. I have seen also members accusing each other. And Honorable Speaker, because I have been part of those members who have been on the receiving end. I saw the member for Yatta the other day, ignorantly speaking on TV, saying how much money that was allocated to Kiambu County and was all diverted to Kikuyu constituency. And I wondered, this is a member who sits in this House, budgets, appropriates, is always in this House. Where was he when that money was being reallocated? Because it is not possible for one member of this House to reallocate resources from one or the other constituency to another. It is not possible. These changes are usually in these schedules, and that's why I thank the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee because of the disclosures that you are making, so that even as we speak on TV stations, let us not appear on TV to exhibit our ignorance of the budgeting process. And it's good that every new parliament, members of parliament, are taken through the budgeting process of the House. And I think from the schedules I was looking at the induction of this House, we had at least 3.5 hours, an induction program. And I want to encourage the chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, please keep educating members, even as you speak to them, as you engage with them, even through the committees, on how the budgeting process is done, Honorable Speaker, so that even as we speak out there, we speak from a point of knowledge and not just speak because we are riding on things that are circulated on social media, or what you think will give you popularity in your village by mentioning other people's names. As I saw the member for Yatta mentioning my name on TV, and I forgave him because I knew he has to mention my name to look relevant to his people. Anyway, Honorable Speaker, moving on from these schedules, there are a number of changes, Honorable Speaker, that are critical, as the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee has mentioned. Issues touching on Article 223, again, Honorable Speaker, we did indicate that Article 223, and it has been the position of this House, Article 223 is only to be used in cases of emergency nature. Honorable Speaker, 223 is not to be used to allocate money to the office of the Leader of Majority for tea, because that is not an emergency. But the emergency that we have faced as a country with the flooding, it is good, Honorable Speaker, that we are seeing more resources going towards mitigation of the issues that came with flooding, right from the monies that are being paid to people who are being moved from riparian reserves within the city and in other areas where people have been asked to move away from rivers and areas where they are prone to flooding and other dangers, Honorable Speaker. And money has been put to ensure that these people are well compensated. I am glad, and I must thank the Ministry of Interior, that for the first time, even as we've seen houses being demolished in Nairobi, all the people who are living in those houses, Honorable Speaker, and I did see a statement from the Ministry of Interior confirming that they have compensated those people to ensure that they are able to relocate and move away from areas that would subject them to dangers of flooding and all the issues we see with climate change, Honorable Speaker. And this is the way to go, so that you do not just tell people move out and they do not know where to go to. And the small stipend of 10,000 shillings that these people are receiving is helping them to be able to move to new houses, most of them because are tenants. And also, let me take this opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to appeal to all our private developers. Please, you do know the riparian reserves are 30 meters from where the river is. Please let us not encroach on our rivers and the riparian reserves, because when these demolitions come, you also lose, as much as many of them may have been warned before. And I pray that the Ministry of Interior, and I was asking the chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, but he has promised within the next budgeting cycle they will allocate monies to also ensure that the areas they are demolishing houses are not re-encroached again, so that they are fenced off, they plant trees, and those areas remain riparian reserves. Because as we have been told, we will receive higher than normal rainfall over the next 7 years. And therefore, some of these measures are indeed to guard against some of the dangers that we'll see. Honorable Speaker, I have also seen changes, Honorable Speaker, in the State Department for Higher Education. And I have a particular concern, Honorable Speaker. If you go, Honorable Speaker, to the schedules, a change of 250 million that is going to the Open University on recurrent expenditure, and that, I have been informed, is very well justified. But there is also an increase of 250 million shillings of GOK sponsorships to students in private universities. This, Honorable Speaker, I completely disagree with, and we should be engaging. I was just engaging with the chair of the Education Committee to see indication, because remember, we have changed the funding model of university students and how they are sponsored through government. There was an increase in the annual estimates of 150 million, which was reasonable, considered by the Education Committee and agreed on by the Education Committee. And I see the Budget and Appropriations Committee has had another increment of 250 to total 400 million. And therefore, we'll be engaging with the chair and the chair of education so that tomorrow, as we move to supply, we can make the requisite changes, Honorable Speaker. Considering, Honorable Speaker, that many of our public universities are in dire need. Whether it is Bondo University, whether you go to Southeastern University, whether you go to Tharaka University or Chuka University, whether it is Meru University, all our public universities are in dire need of resources. And I know many of them did engage in very ambitious development projects that many of which are stalled. But, Honorable Speaker, we must also be cognizant as a House to ensure that where we put our resources, they follow the policy that has been set out by government. If government's policy is to move to a new funding system, resources then must be moving towards that new funding system, not away from the new funding system, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, we'll be engaging on that, Honorable Speaker. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, let me say the small changes that are there in a bit of the development expenditures because of the issue of absorption. You know, we only have probably about 3 or 4 weeks before the systems are closed for the new financial year. Honorable Speaker, I do hope that the National Treasury will move with speed to ensure that exchequer releases are also done in time for these MDAs to be able to absorb, especially the development expenditure that is being released at this particular time. Finally, Honorable Speaker, I know there are issues to do with A&A in our MDAs, and I was hoping, Honorable Speaker, that this being the last supplementary budget, we would also see a good review. But let me also take note that the changes that came with the centralized collection of A&A through the e-citizen platform have in a huge way helped government in making sure that all the A&A that is collected by MDAs is properly accounted for. And I want to encourage the government and the National Treasury to ensure that there is seamless, not connectivity, Honorable Speaker, as they say in the Ministry of Roads, but there is seamless engagement between the National Treasury and all our MDAs to ensure that the transactions have that seamless connectivity from their MDAs to the National Treasury to ensure that every coin that is raised by all our MDAs, because we have seen in the past, Honorable Speaker, the last supplementary budget every year has been used by MDAs to do last-minute rush or the last-minute dash towards procurement, because people hide their A&A and they then move to ensure that they are rushing this last month of the financial year to procure goods and services, some of which, Honorable Speaker, from experience and from those who have been here long enough will tell you, especially those that have served in the Public Accounts Committee and the Public Investments Committees, they will tell you most of the corruption issues in government emanate from things that are done either towards the end of a financial year or in the run-up to a general election. That is where you will find most corruption cases emanating in government and in MDAs. And therefore, hope that the new system of a centralized system of catering for or accounting for A&A through the e-citizen platform will go a long way into ensuring that we curb this vice that has bedeviled our country for long. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, in the interest of time, let me not say much more, but finally, to just again once more thank the Budget and Appropriations Committee and all our chairs I know it was not easy for many of them to leave their constituencies during the recess, together with the members of this House who are serving in the departmental committees, to consider their supplementary budget together with the annual estimates, but also to take this opportunity to ask the National Treasury that moving forward, maybe from the next financial year, once we are done with the estimates, annual estimates next week, Honorable Speaker, as we have moved this morning on the procedural motions to allow us time to be able to engage on this supplementary budget, DORA, or the Division of Revenue bill, as mediated. And I know the CARA is also coming, Honorable Speaker. There is also the Equalization Fund appropriation report from the Senate, Honorable Speaker, and the annual estimates. As we finish with those next week and allow the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury to come and make his statement next week on Thursday, Honorable Speaker, as was communicated by the Speaker's office yesterday afternoon, we do hope that we will be able to have finalized all this. But also to request the National Treasury, moving forward next year, let us minimize our supplementary budget to at least one in a year. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to second.
Honorable members, before I propose the question, allow me to recognize the presence of Matungulu Boys High School from Kangundo constituency in Machakos County, who are seated in the public gallery. Welcome to the National Assembly. I also wish to recognize our guests who are seated in the Speaker's gallery. The guests actually joined our Catholic members of Parliament for prayers this morning, and they are the Sisters of the Immaculate, Father Lazarus of Tangaza University, Reverend Linda of the Anglican Church. Welcome, and as a Loreto Catholic girl, I welcome you personally, and on behalf of the National Assembly, welcome. Thank you. Honorable members, I now propose the question that this House adopts the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the second supplementary estimates for the financial year 2023-2024, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 4th June 2024, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 2023 of the Constitution and Standing Order 243, 1. Approves an increment of the total current expenditure for the financial year 2023-2024 by Kenya shillings 51 trillion, is it? Billion, 113,483,000 in respect of the votes as contained in the first schedule. 2. Approves a decrease of the total capital expenditure for the financial year 2023-2024 by Kenya shillings 75,290,535,117,000 in respect of the votes contained in the first schedule. 3. Approves an overall decrease in the total budget of the financial year 2023-2024 by Kenya shillings 24,177,050,684 in respect of the votes as contained in the first schedule, and approves for Kenya shillings 23,667,017,803 spent under Article 223 of the Constitution in respect of the votes outlined in the third schedule, and 5. Resolves that the first schedule forms the basis of the introduction of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill of 2024. I'll now give an opportunity to members to debate. I'll start with the Honorable Esther Passaris, member for Nairobi County. I've seen you, Honorable Meli. No, I haven't said I'm giving an opportunity. I've simply said I have seen him because he's waving his hand frantically. Yes, there's a difference. Proceed, Honorable Passaris.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand to support the supplementary budget as read by the chair of the Budget and Appropriation Committee. As he prepares the budget for the financial year 2024-25, I would like them to really relook at the estimates that they put and to ensure that we don't over budget, because when we over budget, as we can see, there's been a reduction on capital expenditure of over 73 billion. And the reason why I say they should not over budget is because it's the budgets that informs the finance committee on the monies that they need to raise. And it's ambitious budgets that actually make us look for ways to raise money that sometimes actually pits us against an economy that is struggling and an economy that has been dwindling. I feel that we need to put a lot more money in Article 2 to 3, which will look after the people the citizens that were affected by the floods. We need to really look at how much money we're going to put, especially here in the county of Nairobi. We have seen so many demolitions happening to pave way for the Nairobi River projects, which we commend the government. We need to sort out our dilapidating state of the rivers. We need to safeguard our citizens by reclaiming the riparian land. But that there is a way to do certain things, and we have not followed etiquette ways of doing things. I mean, if we were supposed to actually budget well, we would then be able to put in structures that would make sure that we have a humane face when we're dealing with the citizens who are the citizens of Kenya and look up to us as government to provide for them. I hope that in this supplementary budget, we would also look into the feeding programs for our students, because we have a challenge in not only the public schools, we have a challenge in the community-based schools and in the faith-based schools. We need to start actually touching lives. And when I say touching lives, I don't mean with long-term projects. I mean touching lives with short-term, immediate projects. Right now, we've been pledging to pay the people whose houses we've demolished 10,000 shillings. For me, 10,000 shillings is mediocre. We're thinking that this person whose house we have demolished, we will get 10,000, or because he lives in a slum, he'll be able to find a house, pay a deposit, and then be able to move. What we have not realized is the emotional damage that we have caused that person. Any government, if I were the president of this country, and I really want to say this, because if I was the president of this country and I wanted to clear out the riparian land, the first thing I would have done is gone and identified the houses that I'm going to break. Nobody even knows where it's 30 meters, whether it's 30 meters. People are just waking up with X and their houses are demolished. I would have known that here there's 1,000 houses. I would have actually made sure that I know where they are moving to. Not just break the houses and then tell them to move. Then once I've known that these are the people, because right now you've left it to the chiefs and the DCI and the DCCs have no idea whose houses they've broken, who are the genuine beneficiaries. I mean, it's because we're disorderly. And if government is disorderly, then you can expect citizens will be disorderly. If we had identified and we had budgeted, okay, and we had known this number of people in this particular slum are going to be moved. These are their names. This is the money. This is where you're going to be relocated. You've got 7 days. Then we give them money that is sufficient. And for me, we should have looked at not less than 50,000 per family. 10,000 shillings is not enough. We could have actually said we're giving you NHIF cover. You know, there has to be benefits, because those people found themselves in those riparian lands because we as government failed. We failed the citizens. We have approved for them to build. They didn't just wake up and build. And I'm tired of a Kenya where people are buying land, having title deeds, and then getting loans from banks, and then one fine morning we wake up and say that's an illegality. It's an illegality that we have caused. So how much money are we putting to strengthening the structures of this country? Because our structures are weak. Yesterday I saw Felix Kosgei on TV saying that the government is going to be zero tolerant on corruption. There is no way you're going to have zero tolerance on corruption if you have not given corruption, the entities that fight corruption, money. Have we given them enough money so that they can fight corruption? I really want to see, even within that supplementary, because nothing is cast on stone, that you provide more money for the citizens that we have aggrieved. We need more food for the citizens that we have aggrieved. And I'm tired of people looking at Nairobi and thinking Nairobi is a rich county. Nairobi is not a rich county because of failures of devolution through corruption. So we need to actually make sure that we actually have an equalization fund for Nairobi. Because as long as all those counties that are getting money are failing, everybody ends up coming for greener pastures in Nairobi. Nairobi is over congested. And as I stand here, I support fully, and I hope that the budget can consider this: 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. We need to make sure that we appropriate budgets that way. We need to make sure that every citizen, and this will actually improve our democracy, because when we say 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling, people will take voting seriously. People will ensure that they register as voters. Because right now we have voter apathy. 8 million people did not vote. Why? Because they have no confidence in government. But when we take resources to the places that are needed, how can you give Kasarani, which has over 300,000 people, the same resources as you give us a constituency with 11,000 people? We are failing. So as we budget, let us budget according to our pockets. As we then budget according to our pockets, then we actually look for ways to raise money. And as we look for ways to raise money, okay, let's also remember that we owe a lot of people. I want to know that budgets and appropriation budget that we have right now, the supplementary. Have we made sure that we're going to pay some pending bills? We have actually made our citizens very, very poor because we're not paying pending bills. So, you know, as a government, let me tell you, when I was looking at the South African elections and I saw how the DA party got so many votes, I'll tell you, there will come a time that the DA party will rule South Africa. And there will come a time that an independent candidate will be the president of this country. Because at the end of the day, people are getting poorer and poorer. No matter what we do, how are we going to change that? It starts with budgeting, and we have to have a human touch. Government might be a building, but the building is run by humans. And if we are leaders and we go out and ask for votes, let us start touching lives. Let us start saving lives. Let us start empowering and enriching our citizens. We need to do that. And if it's tightening the belt, let's even start with Parliament tightening its belt. I'm for every entity that needs to tighten its belt so that the citizens of this country can be enriched and empowered. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak to the budget. I know many people have spoken, many of the members have spoken, and in all of it, members are actually supporting this particular motion. But I want to give a challenge to members of Parliament. In as much as we have the power to budget and appropriate monies to the various state departments, we also must take responsibility for ensuring that we are able to support the Kenya Revenue Authority to raise the resources to be able to ensure that we have the money to appropriate. And I want to give a few examples. And I think Honorable Dindi Nyoro, Chairperson for Budget, I also want to ask Honorable Badi, as Chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee, you have a responsibility to ensure that you not only take care of the resources that we have appropriated by ensuring that we don't lose the monies through corruption or misappropriation or carelessness or incompetence by public officers. And I want to give you a few examples as we appropriate. I know you have appropriated to the judiciary, for example. As we speak, Honorable Badi, the judiciary was appropriated money by this parliament many, many years ago to be able to rent a building called Elgon Place at Upper Hill. They refurbished the building, at great cost to the exchequer. But they never occupied the building at all, ostensibly because they said there was radiation, even though the Communications Commission of Kenya confirmed that there was no radiation at that time. NEMA confirmed there was no radiation. In fact, the Kadhi Court is housed at the same place. So how do you appropriate more money for courthouses to the same judiciary that has wasted money for 10 years to this day? So it is your responsibility as the Public Accounts Committee to ensure that as we appropriate money under budget, we ensure that we are also not wasting the same money. And if there is a State Department that has wasted money, they should not be appropriated more money. You remember very well, there was a Judicial Performance Improvement Program that was funded by the World Bank, the highest amount ever given to a single department in the history of World Bank. I signed it myself when I was Chief Registrar. To this day, they abandoned all the buildings that were supposed to be built under that money. Why are you appropriating money to state departments that have wasted money? And that matter has come before your committee. I also want to ask, on the issues of collecting revenue, the Kenya Revenue Authority needs our support as Parliament. For example, we have a big challenge in this country where we have what they call consolidators, where you bring different types of goods in one container. That is where we lose revenue. Actually, some of the richest people in Kenya have made money from evading tax. And when this matter we tried as Parliament to ensure that we say that consolidation is for logistic purposes, not for tax collection purposes. What happened in that, wherever certain communities began to say, oh, you're attacking our people, they're going to lose revenue, you're attacking the business of our community. So it became a community issue, it became a tribal issue. So what did we do? We rendered Kenya Revenue Authority impotent. They are not able to correct the revenue. And just to tell you how we lose money under this consolidator system, for example, if I carry a backpack of iPhones into the airport, that is 1.5 million shillings of tax in that backpack. How much more is there in a 20-foot container and a 40-foot container? So as Parliament, we are busy appropriating money, but we are not supporting the Kenya Revenue Authority to raise those resources. We know that many of you, when you want to import something, you bring it through Isili, right? How much tax are you paying? How is it that they can deliver a car part to you at 15,000 shillings? So you actually see economies and certain parts of this country have been built on evading tax. So we must begin to ask ourselves the hard questions as we talk about tax. Another issue that I'd like to raise is, and I'm asking the PIC, the Public Accounts Committee, because we seem to think the budget process is a process of the Budget Committee. It's not. It is your responsibility, Honorable Badi. Because, for example, when I'm importing a vehicle into this country, I usually insure it. And if my vehicle is worth 4 million shillings, I will insure it for the value of 4 million shillings. And usually, we are required to use international insurance companies. But when we declare the value of that motor vehicle, I say it's 1 million shillings. So how much tax are we losing there? So one of the appeals I'll be asking members of Parliament, we must begin to make it compulsory that if you are insuring your imported goods, you insure with local insurers. That way, Kenya Revenue Authority can say, but you insured it for 4 million, and now you're telling me the value is 1 million. When you read that, we will begin to collect revenue. This country is capable of raising 1 trillion shillings just by correcting those two items that I have given. And I have very many, but there's no time to say that. If you look at the issue of ethanol, which is causing a lot of challenges with illicit brew in this country, the tax on a liter of ethanol is about 350 shillings or maybe 320, I'm told. But In Tanzania, it's 40 shillings. In Uganda, it's 60 shillings. So what is happening? We are importing the ethanol into the country, but not into the country, but directly to either Uganda or Tanzania, and then smuggling it into Kenya. If we don't agree as the East African community to have one tax regime so that we don't have that issue, then we'll continue to lose revenue. So as we discuss the budget, can we please focus on also revenue collection? We must also learn that it's our responsibility as this House to protect the Commissioner General of KRA so that every time there are proposals, and it has happened over the years, there are proposals to try and collect more revenue, then we move into our tribal cocoons, because you'll hear the people in Isili saying, oh, unamaliza watu yetu, you're finishing our people. Then one point, the people in Kirinyaga Road start saying, oh, our business people from our community, from Central, are being finished. I even remember it was shocking. So a few years ago, in the last parliament, some people came to see me and they said, please help us. I said, what's the problem? They said, unajua sisi watu wa counterfeit tunamalizwa. Then I said, you're actually admitting that you want support to be able to continue with an illegal trade. So yes, as Parliament, we must begin to support revenue collection in as much as we so jealously guard our mandate to appropriate budget. Thank you. And I have much more to say, but I know I want to give opportunities to other members of Parliament to contribute to this. Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for the chance.
Honourable members, join me in welcoming students from Moi Girls Senior High School, Kajedo East Constituency, Kajedo County. Also join me in welcoming students from St. Monica Munyaka Girls Secondary School of Kieni Constituency, Nyeri, and students from Gaitu Secondary School, Central Limenti, Meru County. They are all welcome to follow proceedings this morning. This chance now goes to the Honourable Member for Tharaka, Honourable Gitonga Murugara.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, just before I make my representations...
What's out of order, Honourable Mbadi? Honourable Murugara, just take your seat.
Yes.
It's the Honourable Gikari. What's out of order?
Honourable Speaker, I do understand that we have already started the debate, a very important debate on the supplementary budget. But Honourable Speaker, I want to request you to, for under standing order number 1, that you allow us some 5 minutes. Of course, the only person may be Honourable John Bade, because I know we benefit so much from his contribution after he's done. Maybe you could allow us, Honourable Speaker, maybe some 5 minutes for every member, so that we can be able to contribute towards this very important.
Yeah, that is all in order.
Forgetting.
Thank you so much. That's all in order, but you know the drill.
Yes, I do.
Honourable Gikari, you and I have been here since March 28,
I understand.
2013. You and I.
I just taken some pills.
Take your seat. Take your seat. Take your seat, Honourable Gikari. You know what you have done earlier. This would have been done at the beginning of this. But I want to request members that when you give you a chance, to be fair to other members, try to use as little time as possible so that as many members as possible can contribute. The Honourable Murugara.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I stand, I'm also in agreement that we should actually take 5 minutes, but we are not bound by any rules because we need to start with that. I'll implore members and implore myself also to take 5 minutes, make a contribution so that as many members as possible can speak to this very important motion. May I begin by thanking the Budget Committee and the chairmanship of Honorable Ndindi Nyoro. They have done a fantastic job. I appeared before them. They were really grueling. They grilled us. They asked many questions. We were able to answer. And this is how this report has been made. Mr. Speaker, sir, the net effect of what we are doing is to reduce the budget allocations, and especially the budget on expenditure. And this is purely because we've not been able to attain the targets that were in the original budget. And this is the right thing to do, simply because we cannot borrow all the time so as to bridge up gaps in our budget. Therefore, sometimes we have to bite the bullet and go to reduce what we had budgeted for so that we are able to actually live within our means. We are not being overambitious. It is perfectly in order for a country to be ambitious, but if that ambition is not attained, then you make a tactical retreat by saying, I cannot attain this, let me make a reduction, and we move on. There are gains we are making in terms of our local currency, which is actually appreciating, and as a trade country, we should make use of this so that we are able to trade well, and especially in terms of imports, which are benefiting from these local currency gains. As we move on to even do the budget now, we must think of civil servants, including police officers, who are actually craving for salary increases because they're saying they are living in very poor conditions and their salaries are very poor. We must look into this. As we look into the fertilizer subsidy, we have actually spoken a lot about the fertilizer subsidy, and we are informed that the country, due to the long rains, which are actually very good, we are going to realize the fruits of the subsidy we have given for fertilizer. But we must again caution the criminals and the crooks out there who are finding an opportunity to exploit this subsidy so that they do not go on to do crooked things to try and sabotage such a noble idea on subsidy, on production, which is what our country is banking on. We have spoken about Article 223 of our Constitution, which allows the government to spend money on emergency without approval of Parliament. This is extremely important, and the government must stand warned that the only money to be spent under Article 223 is on emergencies. We've spoken about the emergencies of El Nino, the rains that we've been experiencing, the damage we have seen on our roads, on those who live near riverbanks, flooding and water view. And if any money has been spent on this, this is justified. We must speak for it. We must, as Parliament, approve that Article 223 does come in, and the government was right to make use of that article to spend money on the emergencies that we have experienced. There are demolitions that are going on, and every member of Parliament, especially from Nairobi, is speaking passionately about it on riparian sections, those who live within reserved areas. However, again, we must repeat, the government must be cautious. These are human beings. They must be treated with the utmost dignity. We even have entities that have old titles in respect of lands that neighbor riparian sections. The net effect is that we cannot have any challenge to those titles, and we must trend with caution. And finally, we've spoken about universities, and I must point out about my two universities, Tharaka University and Chuka University. These are in dire need of money. We must allocate money, even if it's not in the supplementary, in the main budget. Universities must be taken care of so that we are able to educate our children. With those very many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support. Tarak. Hey, give him the microphone. Yes.
The member for Tharaka, well done. Just now goes the member for Dagoretti North, Honorable Lachi. I hope you do the same.
Yes, I will, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to support and to appreciate our Chair of Budget and the team for, first of all, appreciating that the challenges we are facing, we have to, all of us, stand in the gap, and more importantly, to ensure, yes, we reduce the budgets. But, Mr. Speaker, when you look at the whole budget that we are reducing, we have to also ask ourselves that we are reducing so much from the social side and leaving more on the defense side. And more importantly, that is where our people are suffering. That you find it's in the social sectors, it's in education, it's in health, that we need to increase resources so that we see. Yes, I'll appreciate we have given our community health workers, our promoters, I will appreciate we are looking at KMTC, but also in our House of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. I think going forward, we have to ask ourselves, how many KMTCs do we have now? Can we try and now start working together so that students can just go across than still building new ones? Because those are some of the things, if we want to tighten our belt, then we have to tighten our belt in even building new schools. Instead of building new schools, why can't we look at the schools that we have and improve the infrastructure of those schools and see how children can go to those schools than every one of us wanting to build a complete new school? Yet we are saying we want to really work together. We want to ensure, because some of the schools you find now, you have 100 students and you have a whole school and you'll still need to maintain those schools to be better schools. And so, Mr. Speaker, today, even as we speak, and I want to speak for Nairobi, that indeed I know we have crisis of classrooms, we have all these challenges that are facing us. But for us, we also want to see that indeed we are improving academically. We have, yes, huge numbers of students in our schools, 5,000. And so even if I improve this school, I always know in the next 5 years, I have to look for maintenance. But we also must start to have a moral of ourselves in this house to believe that we were given by Kenyans the opportunity and the privilege to do budgets for them. We cannot see our people all the time when we're doing finance bill budgets. They have started now feeling agitated. They are all over. They are in crisis. Nobody knows. Any entrepreneur who's a startup cannot understand, how do I start a business and how do I survive in an environment that is not conducive to do business as Kenya. Yet we have decided to have a tariff that is within the East Africa. I will walk to Uganda, I will put in a company, I'll do everything and bring it in this country the same way. So why are we chasing away those people who would have done business in our country? Because our conducive environment for business right now is very hurting. And so for me, as much as we support, we must stand and we must be very courageous as Parliament to now tell the executive, our people here, they cannot go through this. And we have to do it. Unless we were not elected as the same executive. They were voted in, you were voted in. I have to stand for my people, fight for my people. For Nairobi, as I finalize, Mr. Speaker, there is no way we are going to do what we are doing. Yet we are the same people, starting from the county. They are the ones who will give you all the allocation letters that you need. You find somebody demolished. A whole place in Keleleshwa was on riparian land. Today, again, buildings are back there. So then you come and start hurting others, yet you can't see you are the one who has decided to show Kenyans you can return a building on a riparian land, and so every Kenyan will go on a riparian land. So it's very unfair what we are doing as leaders. And most of us are the ones with shops there, selling clothes and everything, but you want to finish Madare, you want to finish Ruaraka. I don't think it is right. Mr. Speaker, I support, but it is time this House must stand for what we were given by this Constitution. I beg to support.
Thank you. Member for Mungi West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity actually to add the voice on this supplementary budget. And from the onset, I will just take 2 minutes because I know members have got interest on this. Mr. Speaker, I would like to start by thanking the Chair Committee, Mheshimiwa Ndindi Nyoro, for the effort actually together with the members, the way they have done this supplementary budget. Based on what we have been experiencing in terms of economic issues in this country, Mr. Speaker, there are some few things we want actually to laud in terms of the higher education you're actually gaining on this supplementary budget. We have given them life and we have noted there is increment in that aspect. The other issue, of course, is security, which has gained in terms of the National Police Services, and we are happy that when I read the speech of the President during Mandaraka Day, there is optimism this current financial year, and indeed we have enhanced the fertilizer subsidy and the sugarcane farmers are also going to gain in this supplementary budget. The issue of victims who experience the El Nino, and we are still experiencing El Nino in some parts of our country. Our people are still gaining on this. And more so, Mr. Speaker, for the welfare and the just government of the people, our bodyguards and drivers have gained in this supplementary budget. But Mr. Speaker, I am worried by how we have really reduced the government spending on infrastructure. This country has got so many stored projects, especially in the road sector. And every time we are actually planning, budgeting for this, we put a lot of money and eventually we end up removing. These ones actually reducing certainty of the budget. In the future, we need actually to stop doing the new project and complete the projects we have already estimated in our budget. And we will make sure there are no white elephant projects in our country. Mr. Speaker, the other issue is we are doing